Welcome to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. My name is Leon Jones. This evening's topic: the big fish in the pond syndrome is destructive. The big fish in the pond syndrome is destructive. Let me get into the topic. What I meant by that title is we live in a culture that is very much associated with narcissism. Narcissism is very, very dangerous. In fact, narcissism comes from egotism and it can lead to being a sociopath. Many people who are sociopaths do not have any concerns for anybody else but themselves. And you can find examples of this behavior in a few areas. Number one, look at driving. Many individuals are so much in a hurry to get from point A to point B, especially if they're going to a job, they never think about the consequences that could affect not only themselves, but someone else. What they don't realize is that if they're going to be late, you pick up the phone and call. We have cell phones. We no longer use that pay phone where you have to stick 50 cents in. But individuals still feel like they own the road. Another area you would see this behavior is in the workplace. Now we call it kissing ass. It's when an employee looks for attention and they basically think that they're achieving more than everybody else. And I know a number of us do run into that from time to time. The bottom line is you're trying to make yourself look like you're the big fish in a small pond, when in actuality, you're just a regular co-worker. Now, why do I bring up these topics? Well, the answer is very simple. We live in a society where basically a number of us have a problem with our egos. A number of us have a problem with insecurity, false independence. We want attention. And some of these disorders, particularly when it comes to attention, are histrionic personality disorders. Now, it's very important for individuals to understand the mental state when you deal with people. Now, when it comes to the black community, this is definitely in effect because you hear the word collective going around, but the reason why you'll never have collectivism in the African American community is that many African Americans suffer from that syndrome. They want to be the head nigger in charge. So, because they want that title, they have ego problems. They're very narcissistic. A number of them have insecure feelings, very emotional, because they want to be the first ones to achieve something so they can get recognition and praise. That sounds good, but it's also dangerous. Because usually when people develop this type of behavior, they can be very erratic with their thinking, very irrational. You won't be able to talk to them. And a person that is not coherent with any conversation is going to be very emotional, especially if you have a disagreement. And what you see in today's world is a bunch of generations. I'm not going to say millennials, because I can tell you the most narcissistic generation was the baby boomer generation. Now, if you don't know what the baby boomer generation is, those were folks born between 1945 and 1964. Then my generation is the Generation X generation, born between 1965 and 1980. Now, I bring these behaviors up because a lot of us really don't have any feelings toward our fellow man or women. And where does this come from? Well, some of it comes from video games, to where individuals have this imagination from the video game, particularly if they're out there driving, that they're the only one on the road. They figure if somebody is in front of them on the road and that person is driving too slow, they want to use the video game violence by trying to move them out of the way. Well, in the real world, that doesn't happen. And with all of that being said, the reason why you have so many psychological problems here in the real world is that a number of people, number one, they deny that they even have a problem. Number two, I believe individuals are over medicated. Medication, just as I did in my videos last year on psychological disorders, basically treat the symptoms. They don't cure the symptoms. You have to constantly stay on your medication, and when it runs out, you have to go get more. Now, being the big fish in the small pond sounds good, but if you eat all the fish in the pond, you're going to end up dying out. Why? Because you have nothing to eat. And when you think about yourself all the time, it's going to come back to bite you in the rear end. Now, it's nothing wrong with being self-sufficient, but you have a number of people who are self-centered, self-absorbed, and they believe that their shit doesn't stink. Well, at the end of the day, you're going to find out the hard way that when something doesn't go your way, this is when you're going to see the narcissism, and this is where shaming tactics come from as well. This is when people start to be very immature. And you can find out how people are when they come to a situation that they cannot resolve. You'll see the erratic behavior. And usually the big fish in a small pond is one who has a sense of being served. In other words, they're self-serving. They believe that other people should defer to them in every whim. This is why you have a number of relationships that don't work, because there's always one person who believes that they're owed more than you. And usually when you have that type of behavior in a relationship, there's going to be resentment, because I guarantee the person who's self-absorbed is one who does not believe in reciprocation. And when you interact with somebody who is self-absorbed, or they want to be the big fish in the small pond, this is a person that's extremely dangerous, because you're not going to be able to have a conversation, especially when it comes to politics and religion, because a number of them believe that they are right. Now, I'm talking about people. I'm not talking about any one specific race. So please follow the video so you'll understand the information. What I'm simply talking about is the mindset of people who believe that they are the big fish in the small pond. And in their mind, their achievements are above everyone else's. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe education is great, but you have a number of people who brag about their education. I'm not saying that education isn't a tool that can help you benefit, but what I will tell you about education is, can you take that same academic education and apply it to the real world? And a number of people cannot do that. See, to me, being an intellectual is not just speaking well. It's being able to utilize the theory and apply it to the concepts need be. But you have a number of us who believe that we're the first one who achieves something. Everybody has achieved something in their lives. The bottom line is, you have individuals who think they're better because they may have achieved a little more. Now, I'm not afraid to say that there are individuals who have talents far greater than mine. Those are the individuals you want to hang around because they can teach you something. But on the other hand, you have to be very wary of some of these people, because they might not want to teach you anything, especially when it comes to a job. Because you have a number of people, when they go to work, like I said before, and work is a big example because a number of us have jobs, and if you work in a corporate setting, you can see this type of behavior that is always taking shape every day. You have a lot of individuals who are backstabbing. They're going back telling their supervisors. And these are the people who think they are your supervisors. In other words, you're the new person who comes in to a job, and what you're supposed to do in their eyes is to defer to them. But the bottom line, when you are the big fish in a small pond, you have a very narcissistic personality. And again, let's go back to the black community for a moment here. When it comes to us as black men, the reason why we have trouble communicating with each other, because we carry that syndrome. We're always afraid of somebody outdoing us. So what do? We want to shame them because we haven't achieved what they've achieved, instead of praising them. We have to learn as black men that we have different talents. We're not monolithic in thinking. If I have an opinion and you have an opinion and we share our opinions, you can disagree with mine and I can disagree with yours. But at the same token, do not put my opinion down like you're an expert, because all you're doing is sharing a personal opinion. And this is why brothers cannot collaborate because they wear their egos on their sleeves. They're very emotional, very insecure. They do not know how to connect dots. This is why we can't build any type of community. Now, just because somebody looks like me, they're not necessarily my brother or sister. In fact, they could stab me in the back just like the Caucasian man and woman. But when it comes to insecurity, when it comes to being the HNIC, which stands for the head nigger in charge, a number of us brothers want to be in that position. There are a number of sisters who want to be in that position. But I'm going to go to society as a whole. Most of us want to feel important because we want the attention to be on us. But having everything in our minds that's being devoted to us is very detrimental. This is where you get the princess syndrome. This is where you get the entitlement syndrome. And when you have the syndromes of egotism by being the big fish in a small pond, again, you become very irrational. You could be the sweetest person, or you could be the most dangerous person. And sometimes what comes out of it is what we call a borderline personality disorder. Now, I'm going to go back to the black community again because I am black. What really goes on in the black community, we share a lot of these disorders, but we feel that we don't have these disorders. But we do have these disorders. But we believe that it is white people's issues. No, the issues are our issues as well, but we fail to deal with them. And this is why we're in the place known as being at the bottom of the food chain. Now, is some of it our fault? Yes, it is. It's like slavery. I know everybody was talking about Kanye West, and I looked at that whole 30-minute video, and if people would listen instead of getting into their emotions, now, of course, he didn't say it clearly enough, but I know what he meant. Because, see, when you want to be the big fish in the small pond, it also leads you into a place called victimhood. And when you see yourself as a victim, you use that as a crutch. So when something comes down the pipe, you don't have to deal with the consequences. And that's what happens to a number of the sisters out there. You know, they're allowed to run amok, do whatever they want to do, and not be chastised for it. And at the end of the day, that's not healthy because what you're doing is living a lie. And that's what the big fish in the pond syndrome allows you to do. It allows you to be a victim. It allows you to live a lie. It allows you to be delusional because everything in your mind is based slowly on you. Now, of course, it's not all sisters like that, and it's not all brothers like that. You have people across racial lines who are like that because a number of these individuals, in retrospect, are insecure and are looking for attention because they've never gotten attention before, and they want everybody to not only see but hear about their achievements. They want compliments, but they're not willing to give other people any compliments because, again, everything is going to be solely on giving them the attention. And this is why individuals like this cannot be in relationships. They cannot be in leadership positions. They cannot be communicated with because they don't want to hear what you have to say because they believe that they're right all the time and you're wrong all the time. And what happens when you communicate with this person and you hit them with a point that absolutely strikes a nerve, they're going to come out and attack you with ad hominem attacks, known as personal attacks. Why? Because they can't refute anything that you're saying. And being a big fish in a small pond is basically a title for individuals who, again, are very narcissistic, they have entitlement issues, very immature, insecure, and they have ego problems. And a lot of us men have egos. And again, having a big ego is detrimental because egotism and narcissism are basically the same. They're put in the same context because at the end of the day, what you're looking at is to be on an island, isolated. But one must understand that none of us in this universe are totally independent. You need food, you need water, you need clothing, you need shelter. Why? Because we have a lot of climatic changes, particularly when it comes to weather. And most of us have 4 seasons, depending on what hemisphere you live in. But both hemispheres, you have areas that are very warm and very cold. At the poles, it's very cold. Around the equator, it is very, very warm. But dealing with individuals who have the big fish and the small pond syndrome is something that you should absolutely avoid, especially when it comes to dating. Because you can meet somebody who brings nothing to the relationship, but this person believes that you owe them because they went through bad relationships. So what happens is they're thinking about themselves by bringing all their baggage to you, while you are going to suffer because you're going to resent that person. Why? Because they're not going to bring anything to the table. And what's going to happen at the end of the day, you're going to be the one that's going to do all the work. This is why you have to be upfront in the beginning of a relationship. And you have to talk on the phone for a while before you meet this person, because you can tell everything about a person from the tone of their voice, by body language, whether they're open or whether they're closed. But at the end of the day, when it comes to individuals who are the big fish in the small pond, you have to understand that you're never going to get through them. Plus, these people are very, very, very opinionated. And even if they don't have anything, they think they're better than you. Why? Because they're also delusional. This is why you can't tell them anything. They're extremely stubborn. And there are a number of people like that. And I believe that's what's taken place in this civilization today. Because everybody wants to be the chief, but you can't be a chief with no Indians. You can't be a chief unless you've been an Indian, because you have to understand how society works. And a number of us don't understand how society works. If you look at all these millennials today, and I can't blame everything on the millennials, I have to blame everything on the system known as the education system, because what you're getting what these millennials is code speak from the Marxist education that they're receiving from the public school system and the colleges and universities. And at the end of the day, you can hear the same talking points that they are presenting. And usually, individuals who are also big fishes in a small pond tend to be very, very sensitive. In fact, they want to shut you down. And the next video I'm going to get into is going to be Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, because this is where some of that behavior comes from, particularly if you're on the left side of the political spectrum. But at the end of the day, if you find yourself around individuals who are the big fish in the small pond, do yourself a favor. Stay clear from them. Stay clear of them. Because you're not going to be able to have a decent conversation with them. They could be wrong, but they're always going to think you're wrong. Again, being sensitive, irrational, immature, insecure, self-centered, and delusional allows them to be a victim as well. In other words, they get it both ways, and that's only in their mind. But at the end of the day, being the big fish in the small pond is not only detrimental to society, but it's detrimental to you. And if you don't believe me, look around you. Because before your very eyes, if you haven't already met a person who's the big fish in a small pond, you will. And trust and believe. You're going to get a good idea from watching my video. Some of the mental issues that this person or these people have. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show for this evening. Hump Day, May 9th. It's Wednesday, May 9th, 2018. You can tune into the 411 Talk Zone radio show every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio. Guest calling number is 215-383-5785. If you like my videos, please share and subscribe to the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube so I can continue to give you quality information for educational purposes from a professional and mature perspective. Now, on my channel, I don't engage in controversy, emotional issues, nor do I do debates. Also, I do not participate in drama and or unnecessary bickering because it is counterproductive. What I do here on my channel, the 411 Talk Zone radio show, I give you insight on how the real world works. Just like dealing with a person who is a big fish in a small pond. If you don't understand how they think, this video will give you information on the type of psychological issues that this person has. And once you recognize that behavior, you should avoid this person with the plague if you can't get them help. Because at the end of the day, when you have knowledge, you have power. And if you have a business, a topic, or a new YouTube channel that you would like for me to discuss on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, simply email me at lej6521@gmail.com. If you have a comment, please leave your comment in the comment section under the video. But make sure that your comments are pithy. No bloviating, pettifogging, or filibustering. if you wish to opine. Now, that's it for this video. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Remember, please be gentle and respectful to each other, and have a wonderful and blessed night. God bless you, and good night.